Hola, ciao, tervist, and welcome to another episode of Kapow Comic Book Show, where Al, Ray, and I take a look at comics, cartoons, and collectibles.
And Sonia plays around with Google Translate.
It's because it's fun.
I know, but stop it. Now we're back here at King's Comics as usual, where we point you in the direction of things you should be reading, watching, playing with, or running from screaming.
Indeed. This week we've got reviews of Jihad from Humanoids, as well as Darwin Cook's adaptation of Parker the Hunter.
Yes, and of course good old Ray will be along to look at a Bowen statue of one of our Marvel faves. But first let's do a review of Baltimore, the Widow and the Tank.
Oui, allons-y. What it means, yes, let's go in French.
I'm taking your internet away.
Baltimore, the Widow and the Tank is a pair of standalone horror stories written by Mike Mignola and Christopher Golden, based on their character Lord Henry Baltimore.
Yeah, now some of you may have come across this character before. He's a taciturn man who's come home from World War I with a wooden leg and a taste for killing vampires.
Yes, indeed. Now, previous Baltimore stories have shown him hunting down his nemesis, the Red King. The Widow and the Tank takes place in between the end of World War I and that final showdown, with him looking for leads and taking down scores of undead while he does it.
So, the first tale, The Widow, takes place in Lincolnshire, where Baltimore is hunting down a group of ex-soldiers who've come back from the war as vampires.
And the second one sees him travelling through the region of Aquitaine in France, where he comes across a lone vampire holed up in an abandoned British tank.
Yeah, now I've got to say, this is actually the first Baltimore story that I've come across, and it may have impacted me more had I read the other ones, but I've got to say I felt somewhat distanced from it, because, I mean, for one thing, Baltimore doesn't express any emotions throughout this comic, and also you get really no sense of his personality whatsoever.
To be fair, he is British,
Yeah.
so that could have something to do
might
with
be
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, these are two pretty decent period horror pieces with excellent art by Ben Stenbeck. The drawback for me was that these stories are a little standard. The Tank has a bit of a twist in it, but there was nothing in there that shocked me or gave me a thrill or even surprised me.
Okay, well I think it's possible we may have been spoiled a little bit by Snyder's American Vampire series.
A little.
Maybe the comparison's unfair, but it did jump right out at me
Yeah.
in terms of period horror. That's the first thing I thought of. But I do know what you're saying. There is a feeling of having come across these stories before, which is not to say that they're badly told.
No, not at all. The dialogue in this rings really true, and the artwork has that really nice, grim post-war feel to it that really adds to the atmosphere. It's just that nothing in it really knocked my socks off as a horror comic. And because of that, I'm going to give this one a borrow. It's worth a look.
Yeah, look, once again, I've got to say, for people who have read the Baltimore series before, maybe they're going to be reacting to it differently because they've got the background.
Yeah.
But as a standalone, which this is supposed to be, it just came across as a good story that fell a distance short of being a great story. So I'm going to give it a borrow as well.
So another Bowen classic statue here, Ray.
Yes, that's right. This time we're looking at Cable. Now, he first appeared as an infant in Uncanny X-Men number 201. His adult identity of Cable, on the other hand, which was created by writer Louise Simonson and artist co-writer Rob Liefeld, first appeared in The New Mutants number 87. Born in the present, raised in the future, the cybernetic mutant Nathan Summers is best known as Cable, the former leader of X-Force and protector of Hope. He is the only son of Scott Summers, Cyclops, and Madeline Pryor. Now, based on his original appearance in the pages of New Mutants and X-Force, this Cable classic statue is sculpted by the Kucharek brothers and stands 12 inches tall. Armed with his trademark heavy weaponry, Cable is definitely the mutant you want on your side in a firefight. Now, there's actually another version of this statue that was released at the same time. It's the Bowen website exclusive, and it depicts Cable more stripped down without the armor and the extra holstering, and he's wearing a pair of boots that are a little bit more streamlined. In fact, the statue itself, the character, looks a lot more live. I prefer this statue that we have here, the geared up version. It's just something a bit more warlike, more last stand, and that sort of pops to mind when I think of Cable, the character. There is something I don't like about either statue, and that is the face. Now, there's plenty of detail. There's the scarring around the eye from the technovirus and him gritting his teeth as he's firing rounds into his enemies, and I also like his fixed stare as well, but look, I don't have a problem with any of that, but it's just that I think he looks too youthful.
I agree, I would have liked a little bit more age, a little bit more ruggedness in that face, but overall I don't think it really detracts from the piece.
Yeah, okay, I agree. Let's focus on the base. Now, I like the detail in the base, though I'm just not sure what it's supposed to be, other than just general wreckage. The reason why I mention this is because Bowen have already released a Cable retro statue in the past, and even though you'd be hard pressed to find one now, you'd be able to look at it for sure on the interwebs, but it depicts a Cable standing atop a decapitated sentinel. Now that to me is a base, it's telling a story, and I think we're living in a day and age whereby we can start to expect a little bit more from our artists, and unless they're doing a museum pose, and by that I mean a depiction of a character in their neutral or their most iconic position or pose on a flat base, then I want them to really set the scene, isolate that particular moment of a comic or cartoon, and really be specific with the story that they're trying to convey. Now, with that in mind, let's take a second look at Cable Classic. So here we have our hero amidst the rubble, fending off his foe, and he's certainly armored up, holding two weapons, one in each hand, and they're huge, and also he's got another one holstered on his back, and also a sidearm at his thigh, which looks awesome. And you can also see his vest is lined with a string of grenades and extra ammo. The Kucharek brothers have made so many wonderful statues over the years, and busts, and the detail in this one is no less commendable.
Yeah, the detail of the weaponry and the leathery look of his armor and his boots is really impressive. Coupled with the areas that reveal muscle in his legs and torso, it makes for quite a heroic pose. It's stoic, it's commanding, and it's aggressive.
And I think he would make a great companion piece to the Deadpool Bowen action statue. Not only do they have a similar pose, but some of you may well recall him teaming up with Deadpool after his solo series had ended. And there's also a Bowen Bishop statue on the way as well, which I think will complement Cable very nicely.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, so what's your verdict overall, Sonia?
Overall, I like him. We mentioned the detail, but I think it needs mentioning again. Just on the vest, on the boots, it's just so intricate, and the paintwork on this is really, really well done.
Yeah, not too bold.
It's not. It's kind of dirty. It's kind of gritty. It works for Cable. For me, though, I don't think he kind of encapsulates the sacrifice that Cable made in Second Coming, or the father figure that he is to Hope.
Yeah, it's that extra dimension. He seems to be.
Yeah, he's missing something.
I think Cable is bigger than what this statue is representing.
Yeah, there's a certain level of emotion that I think is lacking, and because of that, that kind of something not quite right. I'm going to give him a borrow. Yeah,
look, I happen to agree. There's not a lot of Cable statues on the market, and you won't find him on the sculpting block too often either. So for those die-hard fans, I would definitely consider buying this because it is excellently executed. And I like Cable, I like his story, but it's just the fact that even though there's very few faults about this statue, I just think that I've seen more commanding pieces from Bowen and the Kucharek brothers, and so therefore I just have to knock it down to a borrow as well.
Yeah. So I would really like a Hope statue.
That would be cool. I want to be born in the present and raised in the future.
Yeah, but...
Like Cable.
Yeah, but who would bring you up?
Well, I would. Telepathically.
Okay, so you would bring up the you of your future's youth.
What?
You're not Cable, Ray. First up, my gentle Kapowians, just a small word of warning. Jihad from Humanoids Publishing is pretty damn out there.
Oh, come on, I don't know what's so out there about a Russian dictator trying to channel the soul of Genghis Khan to create a new empire, or somebody creating a mad clone of Sir Isaac Newton, or aliens stealing the body of Vladimir Lenin. Yep. Pretty much answered my own question there, didn't I?
Yes, you certainly have. Now, Jihad was originally released in English under the name The Horde, but has been re-released in a hardcover edition under Jihad. Writer and artist Igor Baranko has created quite a perverse but compelling vision of the world in 2040.
Yeah, and I think what I find most engaging about this is how readily and how easily you accept all of this weirdness. And I think a lot of that is down to the art style that Baranko has utilized for this story, bouncing between stylized and naturalistic imagery from page to page and from character to character. you find yourself drawn into this story almost against your will.
Yeah, I found the character of Joe especially fascinating. A mystic and the last living Chechen following the brutal genocide of his people, he embarks on a mission of vengeance from God. And that's just one of the stories that are running through this book, all changing and intermingling, but you never feel like you're being left behind when you're reading it.
Yeah, and besides the story elements, there are so many concepts and ideologies vying for dominance here. Mysticism and science fiction, insanity and philosophy, Buddhism and fatalism, even a baby smoking a cigarette. Which I know is not, technically speaking, a concept,
No.
but I felt like it was worth mentioning anyway. I wanted to share that. So I think if there is a problem with Jihad, it's that you're gonna be feeling like you're doing it a disservice if you don't read it at least twice.
Yeah, that's true. You can get your story from the first run through, but second, third, fourth go through this, you're still learning new things, you're coming up to different angles. It's like somebody's taken 10 philosophical tracts, mulched them together and baked them into a cake.
But it's more appetizing than she makes it sound.
Okay, that was an imperfect metaphor.
It was,
Move on.
It was.
Move on.
The point is, this is a buy for many reasons, and not least of all, the fact that you'll want to revisit it so many times. High concept, high drama, and so weird, you may start wishing you had taken the blue pill instead. I think this is one you want to check out if you have the chance.
Yeah, I could not agree more. This is a book that makes you feel smarter and stupider when you've finished reading it. But it's crazy. Every time you go through it, you learn something new. I know we haven't spoken much on the plot in this,
Yeah.
but there are so many elements, so many things that happen that we don't really want to give anything away.
And we don't want to just do half measures on this.
No, take our advice. This is a buy from me as well. It is a phenomenal book and you need to get your hands on a copy of Jihad.
The Parker novels of the late great Richard Stark are no strangers to adaptation, and no fewer than 6 movies have sprung off from these books, most recently one starring Jason Statham, which is going to be called Parker, and I confidently predict it is going to suck.
Why so confident there, Al?
Well, for one thing, Jennifer Lopez. For another thing, Hollywood is afraid of anti-heroes. You know, we've left that period of Lee Marvin and Charles Bronson, when the good guys were only distinguishable from the bad guys from the fact that they won. You know, now they have to layer every hero on with some lame code of ethics.
Okay.
And it just
I
undermines...
understand. Well, I get it. I understand. But how about we take a look at the graphic novel adaptation of Parker? Because this is Kapow comic book show, not Kapow our ranting show.
That would be a good show.
I'd watch it. Yeah. Anyway. Richard Stark's The Hunter, a crime noir novel published in 1962, has been adapted into graphic novel form by writer and artist, and one of my personal favourites, Darwin Cooke. It focuses on a professional thief called Parker, who was betrayed by his wife and his partners after a heist, and then left for dead. The Hunter follows his single-minded journey of revenge.
Now, this may sound familiar to anyone who's seen the Mel Gibson movie Payback, which was one of the adaptations, which was actually quite good. But I'm not going to digress into movies again. Darwin Cooke is a hell of an artist and a hell of a storyteller, but nowhere is his talent as evident as when he's doing crime noir.
I know, it's like he was born to do it.
Right?
He has such wonderful material to work with in Stark's brutal revenge tale, and the artwork matches up to perfection. You know, the thick, bold lines and the deep, dark shadows that Cooke is so good at, and his use of 3-tone colour is absolutely spot on.
Plus, the frames that are chosen do so much to tell the story as well. You are never left in any confusion about the nature of the story or the nature of the man.
And before you digress, which I can see is going to happen, this is where I come to understand what you're talking about ethics. Parker doesn't have any. Guilt, innocence, collateral damage, these are things that he just doesn't concern himself with as he single-mindedly focuses in on his target.
Exactly. Look, he doesn't particularly enjoy killing, but he has no aversion to it if it serves his purpose. Parker is just the ultimate anti-hero, and I literally could not love him for it anymore.
Now, while I am not such a big fan of crime noir like Al is, I am most definitely a massive fan of Darwin Cooke's. And I can't believe it's taken me this long to discover these books. They're so amazing to read. Great stories. The personalities of the characters are just bubbling over in every page. I'm really happy and I cannot wait to get my hands on some of the others. So it's a buy from me.
Absolutely, and obviously from me as well. For anybody who likes a heist tale, for anybody who wants to see their hero get a little dirty for once, for anyone who's ever yelled at their television, "Oh God, just shoot him in the face!" This is the book you've been looking for. For God's sake, get your hands on it. Parker the Hunter is awesome.
Okay, Kapowians, excitement abounds because we are ready to announce the winner of our Humanoids District 14 competition. And the winner is... Ta-da! Congratulations and enjoy your copy of District 14 on its way to you very soon.
Yes, but don't worry, the rest of you, we have another competition coming up next week where you could win a copy of Dark Knight Returns Part 2. I might want to keep this.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that means we've come to the end of another episode of Kapow without any more linguistic silliness.
Excuse me for trying to be a little multicultural.
Multicultural. You were just trying to find a way to quote Doctor Who in a cool way.
Yes, I was, and I did, so...
Oh, that's the best you've got. You know, you're only using that because you couldn't pronounce any of those insults you looked up in Spanish, right?
Anyway, don't forget, guys, there is plenty more Kapow over at sftv.com.au, and this week we look at issue number 1 of Nova and Justice League of America.
Answer the question.
Now
Now you're just doing the Swedish Chef.
Bye, guys!